So at this point, I'd like to wrap up and draw some conclusions with the overall takeaway, let us say, from the play. I'd say one takeaway is from the play is Shakespeare's emphasis on the need for a modern, realistic approach to the political. So there, and this comes back to the Machiavellian theme that I've been talking about a few times. So for instance, in The Prince, chapter 15, Machiavelli says, a man who wants to act virtuously in every way necessarily comes to grief among so many who are not virtuous. Therefore, if a prince wants to maintain his rule, he must learn how not to be virtuous and to make use of this or not according to need. So rather than virtue being the goal of ruling, effective ruling is around securing power, and that can mean being virtuous in a traditional sense or not. So following Machiavelli, Shakespeare shows the need for a modern ruler to set similarly realistic goals. So he shows the need for a modern centralized monarchy with an imperial project to provide unity at home. He shows the need for modern leadership, so knowing the people and all aspects of the people, nobles, common, and clergy, but knowing how to control them. And that's the next point, regulation of the church and regulation especially of the church as a dangerous force within early modern Christian society, if not regulated, a potential fifth column if allowed to side with the Catholic Church. And a modern realistic sense of love. So in that Act 5, Scene 2, the last substantial scene there, the wooing of Catherine, Princess of France, we have this portrayal of a modern realistic sense of love rather than the Renaissance love of love poetry, which is highly idealistic, where the lovers transcend the physical to some sort of spiritual or divine ecstasy. Here the goal is realistic. We're going to get together because we need to produce heirs that are legitimate, that bring these two houses together of the French and the English monarchy. And it's in particular what's eschewed there is the courtly love convention of dying for the love object. So I'll refer you to a few lines there. So as I've mentioned, Henry V is about as close to the ideal monarch as one can imagine in the Shakespearean universe. And the ideal monarch is one that combines Machiavellian tactics for securing power. So on this axis is one who's able to secure power and become strong and uses Machiavellian tactics for doing so. But also is one who at least shows a concern for public good, morality, piety. And again, that could be a Machiavellian tactic of appearing pious. However, this axis is at least attended to. The other main point, so one point, modern realism. The other point is Shakespeare's emphasis on the mixed regime. So I think he's learning at this point in his writing career the lessons of Roman republicanism. It's right after this play, Shakespeare writes Julius Caesar. Maybe he's already thinking about Julius Caesar. Maybe he's reading Plutarch and preparing for that play. So the references to Rome and to Julius Caesar abound. Llewellyn or Fluellen's references to the true disciplines of the war, the Roman disciplines, and to the wars of Pompey the Great are other examples. The reference to Henry's triumphant return to England as akin to that of Caesar in the chorus of the fifth act. So it raises the question of, in Shakespeare's mind, can England be a new Rome? Could the monarchy be reformed to take into account the strengths of the Republic, the Roman Republic? And And so that would be a monarchy that's in touch with the ordinary people. So the Roman Republic had this mixed regime that combined the kind of elements of monarchy, combined elements of aristocracy, rule by an elite few, as well as a democratic element where the common people had an influence through the institution of the tribunate. So Shakespeare's insight into the monarchical situation and its rise as an imperial power in England is that it needed to be able to draw on the energies of the common people in a way that echoes the greatness of Rome in its Republican peak. So Henry knows the common people. He speaks to the common people, not just to the nobles, unlike what we see in the French court. The French court is just these kind of parodies of medieval chivalric knights who are writing sonnets to horses and who are concerned with their armor and their love of individual valor from the battle that they will be fighting. Whereas Henry appeals to the people as a nation, as a united nation. He appeals to their honor in the sense of a collective honor, let us say, and he appeals to the nobility of all. He tries to at least appeal to the nobility of all, the potential nobility of the common people as well. So Montesquieu, this is another century after Shakespeare was writing, said England was akin to a republic. He referred to England as, quote, a nation that may be justly called a republic disguised under the form of a monarchy. So this is in the spirit of the laws. And Shakespeare understood that Tudor monarchy, similarly to Montesquieu, that Tudor monarchy had a lot of popular support, and in this way had that aspect of a republican spirit. The English nobility, for instance, was, especially in the time of Shakespeare, was poorest to the middle class. So Henry VIII had made many of them nobles after seizing church lands. So he seized those church lands and then created small barons and knights out of these new landholders that he was able to grant peerage to. So all that to say, I guess in our thinking, it's a question of the class mobility in terms of income here, which enables all the common people, all parts of the regime to participate in the ends of the state that has, let's say, an economic objective. There in a system of peerage, it's around attaining some sort of title and land. So the other theme I'd like to point out is this notion of the relation of religion and the state. So I think Shakespeare saw that in early modern England, there's basically two historical examples in terms of the role of religion in a political regime: a civic republic. So that's a city where Romanness is what unites the people, and religion is religion of the city, versus a holy community that is united by God primarily. And Shakespeare seems to be saying that we need the Roman Republic with the veneer of a grounding in religious authority. So somewhat combining the civic republic and holy community. And he recognized the role of the Church of England versus Roman Catholicism. So the need for a religion in the service of the political. So with the Church of England and Henry VIII taking over the title of head of the Church of England, we have this let's say, pressing of religion in the service of the state, which Shakespeare is celebrating. And Henry V co-opts this, and sorry, preempts this. He does this in the play. He does this avant la lettre. He does this before Henry VIII later on does historically, and points ahead to this Tudor solution. So the other theme would be the limits of politics. So as I've said, Henry VIII is about the best ruler you can expect, but even his achievements are subject to contingencies of the world. They're going to all be lost. We're reminded at the end of the play, they're all going to be lost under Henry VI's rule, and all the possessions of England and France are lost within with one generation, within 20 years. So the succession problem persists. So the problems of a monarchy are around succession. So you can have a strong ruler, but that doesn't mean that there won't be confusion over succession, which could lead to civil wars down the road. Or you could have a very clear succession that leads to a Henry VI, a weak ruler that spells catastrophe for the whole nation. The other thing it points to is that that political achievements and the conquests of war are ephemeral. I think this is one of the lasting impressions of the play with the epilogue. So there's, even if you take the most celebratory approach to Henry V and the Battle of Agincourt, if you forget the skeptical interpretation and say this is a rah-rah play that celebrates the English achievement, that celebrates how great Henry V is, the fact that this epilogue reminds us in some of the last lines that this would all be lost, the lasting impression of us is so what was the point? What was the point of those lives lost? And we go back to the Harfleur speech and the fact that lives had to be threatened with, infants put on pikes and maidens defiled. Why would we risk doing all these things if those conquests would be lost in 20 years? So I would say you could see in Henry in a number of ways, if we wanted to summarize how we see Henry as a model of Christian kings, so as a good king. So to use that first metaphor that from Norman Rapkin, let's say that's a rabbit in the image of the rabbit duck that can be seen as both. So can be seen as that, a good king, the model of Christian kings, and that's how he was presented in Laurence Olivier's film. We can see him as a crafty Machiavel, so Machiavel in the evil sense, that notion of Machiavellian policy that was presented in early modern plays as strictly evil without a sense of the redeeming features. And so maybe let's call him a duck, and this would be the Gould interpretation, the skeptical interpretation that many have followed. You could see maybe as both. You could say the play is trying to present a case for both, and there are many scholars that have tried to emphasize this, that the play gives us both a rabbit and a duck. The play refuses to decide and presents this as an interpretive challenge for us. And this is the position of Rapkin and those who like him, who insist that the play does not give us answers and only questions. And I think it's a valid interpretation, and the play is definitely poses many questions. Rather than this both and, the final position could be that the play presents kind of neither good nor evil, and in the traditional sense, and that maybe the play presents Henry as neither rabbit nor duck, but rather as someone who's able to combine classical and Christian virtues. So it's not good or evil in a traditional sense, but a Machiavellian policy in kind of its benign sense of trying to present classical virtues with a Christian veneer, so to speak. So with that, I will stop the presentation. I'll end this lecture. That was our last lecture on Henry V. I hope you enjoyed the play. I hope the lectures were useful in guiding you through them. In our next class, we're going to look at World War I and its effect in relationship to literary modernism, a fascinating period of literary history as well as military history in terms of the real climax of industrialized warfare and the horrors that bring, and horrors that are reflected in modernist literature written at the time period as well. So looking forward to that, and I'll see you later. Thank you.